What if I revealed to you that the most perilous individuals are not those who flaunt their power, but rather those who conceal it beneath a facade of righteousness? Niccolò Machiavelli, a figure often misinterpreted throughout history, did not advocate for cruelty for its own sake. Instead, he unveiled a chilling reality about human nature: those who master manipulation, deceit, and control are the true architects of our world. The most treacherous souls are not the impulsive tyrants, but those who earn your trust while quietly plotting your demise. Machiavelli's The Prince is not merely a manual for malevolence. It is a stark and unflinching examination of power. He posited that the most effective rulers are those who excel at projecting an image of morality while being merciless when the moment demands it. The gravest danger does not arise from someone who boldly proclaims themselves your adversary, but from those who feign allegiance while subtly tightening their noose around your choices. This is why politicians, corporate magnates, and even those closest to you who embody a Machiavellian approach pose a far greater threat than any sword-wielding foe. One of the most insidious tactics Machiavelli described is the mask of virtue. Those who crave power know that if they were entirely transparent about their ambitions, they would face resistance. Instead, they cloak themselves in compassion, humility, and trustworthiness. This deceptive guise allows them to disarm suspicion and gain influence with chilling ease. Numerous historical figures have excelled in this approach, leaders revered for their insight, yet behind the scenes they were unyielding tacticians who removed anyone who obstructed their path. The true peril lies in the fact that Machiavellian strategies are not confined to monarchs and politicians. They permeate everyday life. Consider the manipulative colleague who consistently plays the victim while controlling workplace dynamics, the charismatic person who gradually alienates you from others to enhance their sway over you, or the friend who appears supportive but subtly erodes your self-esteem. These individuals operate covertly, and by the time you recognize their true intentions, it is often too late. Many envision psychopaths as serial killers or criminals lurking in the dark. But what if I told you that the most perilous psychopaths do not break the law? They create the rules. Dr. Robert Hare, a foremost authority on psychopathy, uncovered a chilling truth: many of the most successful and influential people in the world display psychopathic characteristics. They blend into society, ascend to positions of power, and manipulate others without guillotine. They are not the monsters depicted in horror films. They are the CEOs, politicians, and leaders who discreetly control the narrative, entirely lacking in empathy. Unlike typical criminals, high-functioning psychopaths do not depend on brute force. They excel in deception, manipulation, and charm. Hare's studies showed that these individuals are experts in managing impressions. They know precisely what to say, how to behave, and how to earn your trust without hesitation. They are devoid of guilt, lacking any emotional depth, and incapable of forging authentic connections. Yet, their ability to feign sincerity is chillingly perfect, rendering them far more perilous than those who act out of rage or desperation. One of the defining characteristics identified by Hare is their utter absence of conscience. Psychopaths can manipulate, deceive, and ruin lives without a flicker of remorse. To them, others are mere pawns on a sinister chessboard, useful, expendable, and easily replaced. They will masquerade as your friend, echo your feelings, and whisper sweet nothings into your ear, all while plotting their next treacherous move against you. The most terrifying aspect: most people remain blissfully unaware until it's far too late. They are nothing more than pieces on a chessboard, useful, disposable, and easily replaced. They will pretend to be your ally, mirror your emotions, and tell you exactly what you want to hear, all while orchestrating their next move against you. The scariest part? Most people never see it coming. So how can you distinguish between a high-functioning psychopath and someone merely driven by ambition? The answer lies in their behavioral patterns. A manipulator may deceive for personal gain, but a psychopath does so compulsively, without a moment's hesitation or doubt. They are incapable of remorse, and their charm is a meticulously crafted facade. They don't just crave success, they lust for control. The instant you cease to serve their purpose, they will cast you aside without a second thought. Our Jung's idea of the shadow refers to the darker, concealed elements of the human psyche that we frequently attempt to hide. These aspects of ourselves are often sources of shame or denial, yet they exert significant influence over our lives. Jung posited that when we suppress these traits, they do not vanish. Rather, they intensify and can become destructive, occasionally emerging in uncontrollable ways. The shadow embodies our unconscious mind, where all the parts of ourselves that we refuse to accept lie dormant, poised to surface. This includes feelings such as anger, jealousy, selfishness, or even more sinister urges that, if left unaddressed, can lead to harmful actions. However, it is not solely the darkness within that poses a threat. The act of repression itself is equally perilous. Jung suggested that it is this suppression of our true selves that can create the most dangerous individuals. For example, consider someone who appears calm, composed, and virtuous on the outside, yet beneath that facade, they may harbor deep-seated feelings of resentment or inadequacy. If this person never confronts these emotions, they may remain buried, eventually transforming into a quiet rage that seeks to undermine anything that threatens their fragile self-image. This illustrates the power of the shadow. It is silent yet formidable. Those who fail to recognize their shadows can often be more hazardous than those who openly exhibit malice. Their darkness is subtle and insidious, often not easily perceived by those around them. However, when provoked, it can manifest in ways that are surprising even to the individuals themselves. Jung posited that genuine personal growth and transformation arise from recognizing our shadow, comprehending its influence, and incorporating it into our conscious existence. In society, the suppression of the shadow can result in toxic, destructive personalities that operate unnoticed. These individuals are typically skilled at donning masks of civility, charm, and respectability. They blend in seamlessly, earning trust and admiration while hiding the perilous forces within. The challenge is our inability to recognize this threat until it is too late. Take, for instance, the charismatic leader who enchants their followers with grand promises, all while concealing a deep-seated sense of inferiority. This leader manipulates their followers with assurances of belonging, all the while using them as instruments to fulfill their own concealed desires. This exemplifies the repressed shadow, a person who leverages their unacknowledged darkness to manipulate and control those around them, often without realizing the extent of the damage they cause. So, how can we safeguard ourselves from the perils of the shadow? The answer lies in self-awareness. By acknowledging and confronting the parts of ourselves we prefer to ignore, we can prevent them from exerting control over us in harmful ways. Recognizing the shadow in ourselves and others helps us grasp the intricacies of human behavior. Do we protect ourselves from the dangers of the shadow? The key lies in self-awareness, a dark and twisted path that leads us to confront the unsettling parts of ourselves we prefer to keep hidden. By shining a light on our inner shadows, we can wrestle them into submission, preventing their destructive grip from tightening around our lives. Acknowledging the darkness within ourselves and others unveils the intricate web of human nature, allowing us to pierce through the facades that people so carefully construct. In a world where survival hinged on cooperation, humans have evolved to trust one another, a trait that once ensured our safety and fostered community. But what happens when this instinct to trust becomes our undoing? What occurs when it blinds us to the lurking malevolence in those we hold dear? The most perilous figures in our lives are rarely the overtly menacing. They are the ones who seamlessly blend into the background, exuding charm and warmth, all while concealing their true intentions. These are the masters of manipulation, often masquerading as friends, colleagues, or even family, individuals we would never suspect of harboring sinister motives. This is the treacherous illusion of trust, a trap we all fall into at some point. Our minds are wired to seek patterns, to forge connections, and to make snap judgments about those around us. This instinct is why we often remain blissfully unaware of the dangers lurking in plain sight until it is far too late. We rely on superficial signals, a smile, a lingering gaze, a firm handshake, to gauge character, leaving us vulnerable to the darkness that can hide behind the most benign of exteriors. What we fail to recognize is that those who pose the greatest threat are masters of manipulation, skilled in the art of deception. They can don the mask of trustworthiness, crafting an illusion of safety, even as darkness lurks beneath the surface. One of their most sinister abilities is the art of mirroring. They know precisely how to mimic our actions, speech, and demeanor, making us feel an unsettling kinship. They resonate with our values, desires, and emotions, weaving a web of false connection that ensnares us. This is particularly true for those who wield empathy as a weapon, convincing us that they understand our innermost selves, that they stand beside us, sharing our ambitions. In truth, they exploit this mimicry to seize power, to manipulate us, and to prey on our weaknesses. But why is it so challenging to unmask these predators? A part of the answer lies in our instinctive inclination to extend trust, to see the good in others, to believe in their sincerity and kindness. We yearn to think that humanity is inherently benevolent, that others share our longing for connection. This optimistic bias blinds us to the chilling reality that someone might be scheming to use us for their own dark purposes. It is far easier to trust than to question, to believe than to doubt. This naivety renders us vulnerable to those who expertly exploit our blind spots, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the moment to strike. Additionally, manipulators frequently employ subtle psychological strategies to uphold the facade of trust. One particularly effective technique is gaslighting, which leads us to doubt our own perceptions and judgments. By instilling uncertainty and creating confusion, they foster an environment where their interpretation of reality is the only one we come to accept. This enables them to steer the narrative and ensnare us in their web of deceit. The risk of not recognizing these individuals extends beyond the harm they inflict on others. It also includes the long-lasting damage they can inflict on our own self-perception. Isolation can diminish our self-esteem, skew our worldview, and leave us feeling adrift and disoriented. This is a gradual, insidious process that often goes unnoticed until significant harm has occurred. So, how can we safeguard ourselves against this illusion of trust? The initial step is to adopt a skeptical mindset, not towards others, but towards our own assumptions. We must understand that trust is something that needs to be earned rather than given freely. Instead of depending on superficial indicators, we should delve deeper, observe behaviors over time, identify inconsistencies in words and actions, and trust our instincts when something feels amiss. Moreover, it is essential to recognize the significance of boundaries. Establishing clear emotional, mental, and social boundaries can serve as a protective measure against manipulation. By being aware of our own needs and values, we can more effectively shield ourselves from those who aim to take advantage of them. Ultimately, trust should be viewed as a tool rather than a given. It is something we must handle with care, discernment, and wisdom. After delving into the dynamics of power, manipulation, and the concealed darkness within, You may find yourself wondering, am I in danger? The reality is that we all are. The world is populated with individuals who excel at disguise, concealing their true motives behind carefully crafted exteriors. However, the positive aspect is that there are strategies to safeguard yourself, remain alert, and protect yourself from the subtle influences of harmful individuals. The first step in self-protection is to identify the warning signs. Manipulative people do not always appear overtly harmful. They can often be charming, charismatic, and persuasive. Yet, there are specific red flags that can help you recognize someone who may be attempting to control or exploit you. A prevalent characteristic is an excessive need for control. Manipulators frequently try to dominate discussions, dictate your actions, and impose their will on you in subtle yet impactful ways. They may start with minor requests, gradually increasing their demands until you find yourself ensnared in a cycle of compliance. Another common trait of dangerous individuals is their capacity to foster dependency. They frequently cut you off from others, leading you to believe that you depend on them for your survival or success. They may shower you with compliments and assurances of support, only to later use those very assurances to ensnare you. Gradually, they create a dependency that is hard to escape, often instilling feelings of guilt or obligation when you try to distance yourself from them. This is where grasping the mechanics of manipulation becomes essential, identifying the emotional triggers they employ to keep you under their influence. However, it's not just the blatant control or manipulation that poses a threat. Often, the most perilous individuals are those who exploit your weaknesses and vulnerabilities without your awareness. They are keenly aware of your emotions, desires, and insecurities, and they leverage this insight for their own benefit. They might provide you with exactly what you seek, a feeling of validation, belonging, or achievement, but only in return for something far more harmful: your independence, your trust, or your ethical principles. The more they offer, the more you feel indebted, and the more you are subtly pressured into actions you might never have considered otherwise. The key to shielding yourself from these sinister figures lies in cultivating resilience. It's about fortifying your sense of self, enabling you to detect manipulation before it takes root in the shadows. This journey begins with a deep understanding of your own values, boundaries, and needs. The more robust your self-awareness, the less vulnerable you become to those who lurk, waiting to exploit your weaknesses. Knowing what you stand for and what you refuse to accept forms your first line of defense against the encroaching darkness. With a clear sense of identity, you become less susceptible to the whispers of those who prey on your doubts and insecurities. Equally crucial is the cultivation of a network of trusted allies who can offer support and perspective. Manipulators thrive in isolation, weaving a web of deceit that convinces you that you are utterly alone, that no one else can comprehend your plight. Yet with a strong support system, you gain companions who can help you identify the red flags that might otherwise slip past your notice. They provide clarity when your judgment is shrouded in confusion, guiding you to make decisions rooted in reality rather than emotional manipulation. The next step in your defense is learning to heed your instinct. Those gut feelings often hold more truth than we acknowledge. If something feels amiss, it's a signal worth heeding. Manipulators excel at sowing confusion, leading you to question your own perceptions and judgments, drawing you deeper into their dark labyrinth. Trust yourself, for in the shadows, your intuition may be your only light. By learning to trust your own inner voice, you can start to pierce through the illusions and deceptions that others use to conceal their true motives. It's crucial to practice emotional detachment, as manipulative individuals often thrive on sowing emotional turmoil wielding guilt, fear, and anxiety to exert control over their victims. By nurturing emotional resilience and refusing to be swayed by their tactics, you can preserve a sense of calm and clarity amidst the chaos. This doesn't mean becoming cold or indifferent. Rather, it's about mastering your emotions so they don't become instruments for someone else's agenda. Protecting yourself also involves recognizing when to walk away. Often, the most effective defense is simply choosing not to engage. Establishing firm boundaries and saying no when necessary can be a powerful shield against manipulation. It may feel uncomfortable at first, especially when faced with someone who is charming or persuasive. Yet, remember that the ability to walk away is one of the strongest forms of self-defense you can possess. It safeguards not only your peace of mind, but also your very essence. If this video has prompted you to reconsider the people in your life, and if you found value in these insights, please take a moment to like and subscribe to Mirror of Being. We explore topics that challenge your perspective and guide you toward wiser navigation of the world. Keep in mind that the most dangerous individuals often hide their true nature until it's too late. However, with awareness, you can shield yourself and stay one step ahead. So stay tuned for daily content that encourages deep thought and intentional living. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Stay vigilant, stay sharp, and as always, reflect deeply.